Welcome to another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I'm your host, Shara Chan. Today is Saturday, July 27th, 2019. Got a lot of cool stuff to go over this week, so let's get right down to it, shall we? In Yu-Gi-Oh! News, as I stated last week, this week I'm going to be going over the changes to the Semilimited and Unlimited lists for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban restriction list. First up on the list is Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End. Was limited and now is semi-limited. We have Danger Nessie, Danger Jackalope, and Danger Shunenoko. Those three were unlimited and are now semi-limited. The other changes include Ether the Heavenly Monarch was limited and is now at 2. Elemental Hero Stratos was limited and is now at 2. And Exector Dragonfly was limited, is now at 2. Perfamage Damage Juggler was limited and is now at 2. Shuret Strategist of the Necros was limited and is now at 2. And Royal Tribute was limited and is now at 2. The cards now off the list include Quilfert Scout was limited and is now unlimited. Luster Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, was semi-limited, is now at 3. Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, was limited to 1 and is now at 3. Dark Hole is now at 3. Monster Gate is now at 3. Rekindling, Super Polymerization, and Solemn Judgment, all now off the either semi-limited or limited list. There's a lot to unpack here. The dangers obviously seem to be getting hit with this list. Looks like the Monarchs are getting a little bit of a boost, though we'll have to see how having 2 Ether the Heavenly Monarchs will help. Elemental Heroes making a huge comeback recently, especially in Duel Links. We'll see how 2 Stratos in the deck helps out. Exector Dragonfly was limited. We'll see how that helps the Exector deck. See some other notable changes is Trishula, Dark Hole, and Super Polymerization and Solemn Judgment. All huge changes to the list now at 3. As some of you may remember, Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier was actually banned at one point. So it'll be interesting to see how having 3 Dark Holes, 3 Super Polys, and 3 Solemn Judgment is going to help change the format. If you guys have any questions or comments about this list or the list from last week where I went over the changes to the ban list and the limited list, feel free to contact the show. I'll give you guys that information at the end of the episode and let me know your thoughts. I really look forward to hearing from you guys, and if you guys send in any information, your thoughts, your theories on how this is going to change the meta, I'll make sure to either read your comments on the show, or I will play your comments if you send in a voice message through Skype. That's pretty much all we have for Yu-Gi-Oh! News this week. On to the next segment. In Pokemon news, Pokemon Masters release date finally revealed as pre-registration opens. Earlier this week, DNA and the Pokemon Company opened up pre-registration for their upcoming mobile game, Pokemon Masters. Despite that, the company didn't immediately give the game a specific release date, instead continuing to say that Pokemon Masters will be out sometime in summer 2019. Since we're closing in on the end of July, it seems that the window for the game to release is shrinking quickly, but luckily, DNA has indeed confirmed that Pokemon Masters will be here before summer is out by finally announcing the release date. According to The Verge, DNA has set a release date of August 29th for Pokemon Masters on both iOS and Android, which means it'll be here in just a little over a month. Pokemon Masters definitely seems to be quite the departure from mainline Pokemon games, but given the nature of mobile gaming in general, that was probably to be expected. The Verge's write-up confirms that Pokemon Masters uses gacha mechanics as its way of making money, like other titles such as Summoner's War or Fate Grand Order. That means you'll be summoning characters randomly to add to your team, though it sounds like Pokemon Masters may not be quite as heavy-handed as other games when it comes to the gacha mechanic. Interestingly enough, you won't actually be recruiting Pokemon through the gacha system, but rather their trainers. At the core of Pokemon Masters' battle system is the sync mechanic, which pairs Pokemon trainers from the anime and the games with their signature Pokemon. Onix in the case of Brock, Starmie for Misty, so forth and so on. Previously, the Pokemon Company revealed that players will be able to change their trainers' outfits, which in turn changes their paired Pokemon. So this news essentially confirms what we've been assuming since Pokemon Masters was first announced. Like Dragalia, Lost, and Fire Emblem's heroes, Pokemon Masters will subject players to a gacha system in order to build out their teams. For some, that may not be a big deal. Gacha games seem to have a pretty dedicated following of fans, but for others, that might be reason to stay away, as gacha games aren't generally created with the intention of being wallet-friendly. Hopefully we'll see more of Pokemon Masters between now and its August 29th release, and if you're interested in checking it out, be sure to pre-register. That's all we have for Pokemon news this week. On to the next segment. In gaming news, Nintendo will reportedly fix Joy-Con drift issues on Switch for free. As successful as Nintendo Switch has been, some users have complained about malfunctioning controllers since the early days of the console's life. Now, it looks like the company has an action plan for addressing the issue. An internal Nintendo memo obtained by Vice notes that the company's customer service team was told that people will no longer be charged for their Joy-Con controller repairs. It also says that warranty restrictions don't apply and that those who already paid for a repair will receive a refund. Quoting, "Customers will no longer be requested to provide proof of purchase for Joy-Con repairs," the memo reads. Additionally, it is not necessary to confirm warranty status. If a customer requests a refund for a previously paid Joy-Con repair, confirm the prior repair and then issue a refund. End quote. Nintendo wouldn't confirm any of this and instead provided Mashable with a statement that encourages users to reach out to the company's support team if they're having issues. Quoted, "At Nintendo, we take great pride in creating quality products and we are continuously making improvements to them. We are aware of recent reports that some Joy-Con controllers are not responding correctly. We want our customers to have fun with Nintendo Switch, and if anything falls short of this goal, we always encourage them to visit support.nintendo.com so we can help." End quote. Nintendo was requested for further clarification on the question of refunds for past repairs, and gave a statement that the above statement that I just quoted is all the company has to share at this time. If the refunds for past repairs are indeed real, it appears that they may be limited to the US and likely Canada as well, under the North America regional umbrella for now. One Reddit user spoke to Nintendo customer support for the EMEA region and was told free repairs only apply to products still under warranty. If you do live in North America and you paid for a Joy-Con repair at any point, it's probably worth your time to at least give Nintendo a call and see if you can get that money back. The Joy-Con drift issue, as it's called, has been kicking around since the early days of the Switch's life. Users affected by it report that the joystick on an affected controller records movement even if it's not being used. There was some noise around the issue in the months after Switch launched, but it eventually quieted down. That is until recently, when a Kotaku report and talk of a class action lawsuit reignited the conversation around Joy-Con drift. Vice's report notes that Nintendo's new Joy-Con repair documentation doesn't actually acknowledge there being a hardware issue. In fact, it sounds as if customer service reps are being told to follow the usual guidelines for troubleshooting issues and setting up repairs, but to simply ignore warranty restrictions and repair costs. As Vice writes, quoting, customer support representatives have been advised, according to the documentation, to guide Switch owners complaining about Joy-Con drift through troubleshooting steps. But if that doesn't solve the issue, they're to issue a repair at no charge. Importantly, Nintendo is no longer seeking proof of purchase for said Joy-Cons or confirmation of an active warranty. In other words, the company is telling its customer service representatives that if someone says they're experiencing Joy-Con drift, believe them. Unquote. Now, this isn't a surprise given the fact that there is a class action lawsuit on the table. It's in Nintendo's best interests to fix Joy-Con drift issues as easily and painlessly as possible, but without acknowledging any guilt. That's also likely why the company won't publicly commit to issuing repair refunds, and also why you should proactively try to get one if you've already paid. This is all we're likely to hear from Nintendo on the matter, and if it's all true and accurate, it's probably the best possible outcome that someone dealing with Joy-Con drift issues could hope for. That's all we have for gaming news this week. On to the next segment. Before we get to the next segment, a quick word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, I really do hope you love hazardous verbal waste. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks. Or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. So here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code HAZARDOUS, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code HAZARDOUS. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. In this week's special interview segment, I got a chance to speak with Paul Davenport, one of the leadership of a Washington local group called Kingdom Boffing Association. I hope you enjoy the interview. Let me know what you guys think afterwards. Okay, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and the readers, because I will be putting this into the article that I'm writing for the Auburn Examiner, and we'll go from here.
Okay. My name is Paul Davenport. I am one of the founding members of Kingdom Boffing Association out of Auburn.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Kingdom Boffing Association, how you guys got started and that.
We were all associated with a previous boffing group that kind of fell apart. So we decided to go ahead and continue with our own project. We took about 6 months to work on our rule book in 2009 during the winter. From there, we just hit up a park and started sparring and trying to attract some of our friends and family members to go ahead and come down. It was slow going for about the first 6 months, but it built up quickly after that. By 2012, we had about 30 members. Then I decided to take some time off from the group due to work and some other things. And so we're back to kind of rebuilding things up in the last couple of years. We've introduced like our page program is a big deal for us. It's definitely something that has helped promote future for the group.
Well, tell me a little bit about the page program.
That is a youth program for ages 3 to 11, where we break things down occasionally into brackets by age. So, like your 3, 4, and 5-year-olds aren't really going to be fighting or participating with anyone in the ages of like 9, 10, 11. So we separate them out so that they can the younger kids just have fun with it. And then as they progress, we're looking to teach them the rules and have them, what's a good word for it, really adjusted to what we're trying to do, but also to keep fresh blood, new recruits coming in. Like with any sport, you want, to get them while they're young, I suppose you could say. But really just kind of make sure that when we're gone as the adults, that there's somebody there to replace us, which we saw as a failing with past groups and stuff that we've been with. They didn't have a contingency plan. They didn't have people in place to replace them as they, moved on due to age, injury, or whatnot, what have you. There was nothing really in place, and we felt like if we had something like that, it would just make sure to keep our group going in the future. Another big part of it is also that a lot of us became adults. So when we got married, we were in relationships, we all had kids. And a lot of people don't want to go down to the Boffing Park and, to the group and hang out and then have to watch their 3-year-old run around. And, it's kind of like an interruption. Your responsibilities will pull you away from what you're trying to do for enjoyment. So we made this program so that there would be an adult or several as it grows that would make sure to watch those children and allow the parents to go out there and have fun as well, while they get to share and bond with like a common interest.
Cool. So kind of like a built-in babysitter.
That was originally the idea. We originally thought it would just be a child watch where Josie would, who is one of the co-founders, would just kind of watch over the kids and make sure that they stayed safe. And then we decided, hey, but if these kids are down there, why don't we just go ahead and, let them, give them super safe gear, way beyond our normal regulations, and let them go ahead and participate, have fun, and regulate it, to where they don't get hurt or anything serious happens. And a lot of parents actually come down just to let their kids play now. So that's honestly really good for our group.
Cool. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about the rules of the group, conduct, weapon manufacturing, and the like?
We are really big on providing an atmosphere in this group that is conducive with having family members around. Some more competitive level groups, it tends to be more of a male-dominated group, and so that can kind of cause problems in the sense of competitive nature, going over the top, or locker room talk type activities. So we wanted to make sure that we're more inviting to more people. So we really hit up our rules of etiquette. We don't allow you to curse much. If you're a smoker or vapor, we have a designated area where you have to go. And just other things too, like behavioral wise, if you lose your temper, we created a set of crimes and punishments. So if you go outside these rules, we'll start to tell you, hey, you can't participate. Oh, okay, you continue to do it? Well, we don't even want you to attend. As far as with like gear regulations, we have a bunch listed in our rule book, all set by core length, thickness of the padding, and then we've actually grown over the years. We're really looking for more safety options within the budget friendly nature of what we do. A lot of other groups, their gear, they'll go ahead and go with like cloth top gear, whereas they see us with the duct tape and they wonder why. It's just a budget friendly option. Anyone can go grab a duct tape and make a sword through our regulations, whereas cloth tops and stuff, you either have to buy them or you have to learn how to sew. But we stick to polyethylene foams of varying poundage. But we really do weapon checks. We limit. I don't want to say limit. We make sure to train people properly on how to build a weapon from the base forward. We've been trying to do weapon making parties for interested parties. We also work with Tower Guard Boffer, which is basically they're kind of semi-sponsor. They make gear and they're trying to sell it. So we definitely push people towards that direction if they want. If they don't want to learn how to make it. But I always encourage people to learn how to make the gear because it also teaches you how it can, parts can blow out, and it just keeps it budget friendly for everybody. Our basic rule sets, we're not like any of the national groups. We don't have classes. We don't have armor. We don't have anything like that. It's very just contact based. We don't deal in light shots. We deal in what we call solid. And what that should feel like is kind of like you smacking your buddy on the shoulder. Not hard enough to hurt him, but not super light to where it's kind of like just tapping. From in that, I'm trying to think. Our hit locations are generally just wrist to your rotary cuff on your arm. That is an arm shot. If you get hit there, you can't use that arm anymore. If you have that against your body, or it'll carry through if you get hit there again. So 2 shots to an arm generally kills a person. And these are very basic things. There's more that can go into it, like having a 45-degree arc when you swing again. So you can't just like double tap really quick. You have to actually hit and then draw back and kind of hit again, to be fair, so they have a chance to dodge and stuff. Your hands are invulnerable. Your feet are invulnerable as long as they're touching gear. So that's part of it. From your wrist bone to the inside of your leg and just below your hip. If you get hit there, that's a leg shot. We go with a lock leg. Basically means that you can either walk on your heel or stiffen your leg and kind of like either drag it or have to kind of swing it, but you can't bend your knee. That's to slow people down from being able to run. We don't go down to knees just with one leg shot. It requires both. If you get hit in the hips or your butt, that's both your legs automatically. And anywhere on your torso is a kill shot. Shoulder blades, collarbone, back, kidneys, and your stomach area. Headshots are not allowed. If you get hit in the head, you're supposed to call a hold, or somebody nearby needs to call a hold. We need to make sure that person is still good to go. That they're not hurt, one concussed. We see it all the time with all the pro sports. Concussions are a very real risk. We have had one of our friends he got concussed at an event. Just an unlucky thing that happened. We make sure to keep watch on the person, make sure to keep them talking, and then we get we'll obviously get them medical treatment. If you're hit in the throat or the groin, this is kind of a weird one for a lot of groups. A lot of groups, they say that those are kind of like a headshot. We go with more of a if it's accidental, it's an accidental thing. They're not to be aimed for. As long as the person's not injured or anything, they're considered death shots. So the person will be down in combat. We look at it as a sport. It's a fun sport. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to be hit super hard. So that's one of our other rules. You gotta regulate yourself on what you're doing. We're all out there trying to have fun. So if a person is hitting too hard, or if a person's not taking their shots, we'll sideline them. We have no problem with that. That's cheating, and the other one's trying to hurt people. So those two things are things that we'll get right on top of you about it. And if you don't adjust, we'll just remove you from our group because we don't need it. If you injure a player or if you're cheating someone, the likelihood of them to return is a lot lower, obviously. So we really don't have patience for that. I think of anything else. I mean, these are just basic examples of things. I mean, our rule book is a little bit more in depth with things. We go into temper management. Obviously you can't be trying to how's the way of saying it. Basically, can't sit there and flirt with a girl if she doesn't, if she's not receptive to it, anything like that. Your behavior is something that we strongly look at, and if we don't like how that's going, and if you're not following the rules that we set down, we'll just bounce you out.
So your basic family-friendly event rules.
Yeah, and to everyone, I mean, you feel uncomfortable, someone's making you uncomfortable, we want to hear about it, and we want to make sure that we can solve a problem like that. We've had it in the past. Things have been brought to us, and we try to solve it as best as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to quite a few conventions that are family friendly, and they deal with that stuff real swift. Unwanted advances, if you're being unruly, uh, especially with prop weapons. A lot of conventions are really strict about what is and is not allowed.
Oh yeah, the peace binding, and um, you know a lot of conventions are even cracking down on even allowing like anything that looks like a gun. I've seen a lot of stuff online about how they want to conduct themselves, and people want to feel safe, and people want to make sure that, especially when you include children, that things are being watched, things are regulated, because it's one thing to lose your temper if it's just you and like 20 other guys that are all like adults, to be able to solve that, but to have kids watch it, you really go into a different territory with that.
Right. Well, we're on to the next question. Where do you see the group going in the future? Um, what plans do you have?
um, right now we have two more fields in development. We have Freeport in West Seattle at Lincoln Park. My buddy Jarrell, who I've fought with for at least a decade on and off, before he went and he enlisted and he did his tours. He came back, and we kind of got to talking, and he wanted to help me build and expand. So I've been helping him with that. Uh, and then in Arlington, Washington, which is just a little bit north of Everett, we have a couple guys out there that also want to start a field. They've been having kind of a tough time work-wise and everything else. Life's kind of hit them hard. But they are out there next to our friends in Marysville Boffer Fight Club, and they were former members of that, which is a group that we like to interact with on occasion. So that would give us a really good way to do that with them more often. But we want to expand. I personally would love to be a regional group. I don't want to be national or anything like that. I don't want to be those other big guys, but I wouldn't mind going at least Washington or along the Pacific coast, maybe the I-5 corridor or something that we've talked about, having a group about every anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour drive. That way they can easily get to each other. And I've been a part of groups that have had that. The interactions can be great, and I want to keep fields smaller so that they're easier to manage. Personality conflicts are easier to deal with. I've been a part of a group that was 100 people strong every Saturday, and the problem with that is that you get little cliques, you get groups, and the personalities are so thick and so deep that a lot of times it causes too much conflict for the group to survive. So I really want to kind of have something spread up and down the coast. I think Puyallup would be another good place for us to try and expand to in the near future. But having battle games, we've talked about having a map. I know that Dagger here, which is one of the big groups, they have like it's either Dagger here or Dark Art, but one of them has a battle match where they contend for territory, and that's something that I thought would be fun for the group. And that keep this working on safety and making the year better, making sure that the players are in control of themselves and they play safely. Trying to think, but yeah, I really we were working with a couple things. Like one of our big future events coming up is our Cold Steel Classic event. It'll be the second year that we've done it. Last year we did it with a couple other groups, and it was pretty good. It was a fun event. We held it as more of a tournament. This year we're discussing if we want to keep it as a tournament or if we want to expand into more territory. We're also associated with the Nerd Fair. They're up in Linwood every year. Last year was their first event. It went off really good, and it was really big for us. We met a lot of people. We took some gear up there to kind of sell to pay for the booth and the space. Sarah Mustaine, who runs the operation up there, actually invited us back this year and gave us basically an option to either have panel time or demo room. We're going to get 50 minutes of time to do that, which was super awesome. She gave it to us. She's a great lady, and definitely a good event to check out. It's a one-day event up there. And then we plan to have in the future Capture the Flag League. Capture the Flag seems to be like a really popular form of entertainment for buffing. I guess that harkens back to just old school camp days or playing Halo and like Call of Duty. Younger kids and stuff, they definitely like to capture the flag. The adults do too, because it gets you moving around. There's a lot of strategy to it. So we thought about having a league where each field would be able to put together one or two teams, and then we would actually have it kind of score like soccer, to where your goals and everything will count throughout the season towards an ending goal, and then we'll select probably the top 4 to 8 teams if we have that many, to go ahead and go into a playoff situation, and then that way we can run that during normal events, where teams could just do that for for a little while, a couple games, and then we can go back.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part? You kind of got muffled there.
Oh, okay. With the Capture the Flag League, we're trying to run it like a soccer league. So once you score, your points count for the rest of the season, for the whole season, and then the top X amount of teams will be put into a playoff situation where they would basically eliminate each other from the competition until we have a champion. And with our tournaments and stuff, we actually go out and we purchase medals and awards that we give out to those who place in the top brackets. So these are things that we've been doing for a few years. Another event that we have is the King's Crown Tournament. I've held that since, the first one was actually in 2011. And then we brought it back in 2016 because we were looking for a way to kind of show who could be the best fighter. So in 2016, 2017, 2018, we were holding them and pulling in about between 35 to 40 people for the event. So that's another thing that we like to stick to. We invite people from other groups. So we'll invite members from Amtgard, Belagarth, all those. We're just like, hey, come on in, let's have a competition, let's have fun, and they've been really receptive to that, which is cool.
It sounds like a really fun group, and I really glad that I found you guys. I've done this in the past. Like I said previously, I used to do this in college, and there was some structure to it. And then I tried doing Dagger here before, and there rules are just too strict on weapon sizes and the different the words I'm looking for are escaping me. The different weapon rules that they have are just so strict. I just couldn't see myself participating because it's like I had purchased some high quality weapons and I wanted to use them and was told I couldn't.
And that's one thing with a lot of the nationals. Some of them they bleed over into each other, and in the sense of like how their rules work because they used to be the same group. Like Amtgard and then Dagger here. Dargarth is like a mixture of Belagarth and or something. I don't know the complete histories. It's just what I've seen on Wikipedia, right? So, but they all have different regulations. They all have different sets, and that's one thing for us. Like we're vastly different from all of them. We're a little bit. They'll say probably loose with regulations. I've been in heated discussions with guys that believe that cloth top is just the answer to safety. They think duct tape is dangerous. 24 years I've been fighting with nothing but duct tape, and I've never seen duct tape hurt a person. Now, the physicality of the field or the ground or the impact, I've seen that hurt, cause injuries. You get bruises. People. I've seen people get knocked over and they land wrong. Things can happen. But I've never seen duct tape hurt anyone, and so that's kind of silly. And I totally understand what you mean because for a while we were going out to All's Fair, and nothing against them and nothing against what their operation. It's great that a lot of groups go out there, but it seemed like we were kind of like stared down the nose at because we had duct tape topped weapons where everyone else used cloth or they use fiberglass cores or they use carbon fiber cores and we're using PVC. It just felt like, kind of like you walked in off the street. But these are budget options for people that want to get in at the ground level or who don't want to go on the internet and buy these regulated weapons that are like $60, $80. I've seen shields for like $100, and I'm like, yeah, but we'll allow you to put cardboard, take cardboard, make it a good rigid core, pad up the front of it, pad up the edges of it, put some straps in it, and you can bring that onto our field and fight. Because we want to welcome everybody, like you can, if you want the cloth top ovens, you can bring them down. We'll check them, make sure they're safe, make sure they won't hurt anybody, and you can use those too. And then we just try to make sure that the environment is inviting to everybody.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much all there is to know. Is what how can people contact the group?
We have several ways to contact us. Our most popular is through the Facebook page. It's just Kingdom Boffing Association. If you search that up on Facebook, it'll pop right up. That also has a Linktree link in the About section. So if people want to visit our website, if they want to go to our YouTube video, our YouTube channel and check that out, there's a lot of videos up on there. It also takes to our Instagram account. That's another one that we do. We post exclusive pictures on Instagram that we won't post on our main on our Facebook page. We also have 3 KBA groups, one for the Auburn group, which is Strifeland, Seattle, which is Freeport, and then Arlington, which is known as Jorgenmunder. I hope I said that right. Named after the great serpent in Norse mythology. So if you're in one of those areas and you want to check us out, that's a good way to jump in there. Is just go ahead and try to join the groups, and we'll let you in there.
Cool. Is there anything else you would like to talk about? Any video games you've been playing lately or movies that you've seen that were interesting?
I have pretty much fallen out of video games for a little while. My last one that I really played strongly was Kingdom Come Deliverance. So after that endeavor, I kind of fell up, but I do play Magic the Gathering Arena. I'm an MTG lover from top to bottom. Um, Occasionally, we'll bust out the Warhammer miniatures and we'll play a little tabletop. But with that one, it's such an such a big thing to do. It's it takes a whole day. Um,
All right,
so
not to
yeah.
mention the expense.
Oh yeah. We no longer. We, I'm a Bretonian player, and my girlfriend she plays Tomb Kings. So the last major purchase we made was finishing out her army, which was about $750. But it came with everything, so that was nice.
Personally, I'm a TCG player. Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Dragon Ball. Play a lot of video games: Minecraft, Mario Kart, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty. I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much all over the board.
yeah. I used to love Call of Duty. Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 were amazing games. Um, but I got kind of, I mean, how they do things over there. I got kind of annoyed when they ripped off Titanfall and really kind of smashed that with the wall runs and everything. And I really had a lot of hope for Titanfall since I played a lot of Mech Warrior when I was younger. Mech Warrior 2, Mech Warrior 3. So when you know, I never got to play the second Titanfall, but the first one was a lot of fun, if not very expanded on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Call of Duty. I'm excited about the new Modern Warfare. Just Modern Warfare with the prequel setup and everything. That looks pretty awesome.
And the one video game I'm really excited, well, two video games I'm really excited about, actually is Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution. Uh, a long time ago, Konami put out Legacy of the Duelist on all the platforms: Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation. And it was huge because it was the first video game in a while that was a card for card replica of the trading card game. And so they're bringing the new rules for the trading card game into the video game, but it's a Switch exclusive. So a lot of people are unhappy about that. But
Hey, you know what though? I would. My son has a Switch, and I would definitely pick one up. Like the same thing with the Ultimate Alliance, right? Like Ultimate Alliance 3, they decided to make a Switch exclusive for some reason, and I can't fathom why. But um, it's not too bad of a system.
yeah, and then they just came out announced that they're going to be releasing in September the Switch Lite, which is a handheld only version of the Switch. Can't play it on TV, can't play it tabletop mode. It's handheld only.
So
And
another DS.
they're actually phasing out the DS and the 3DS and everything. They're phasing out all their handhelds and they're focusing on the Switch.
I mean, it's cool in the sense that you can just kind of pick it up and go if you want. Like my son loves it because as long as it's actually put it on the charge station, he can just grab that and for going on a car ride or something, he has the ability to continue playing his game.
Yeah.
So
And then the other game I'm really interested in is Gears of War 5.
I
I
have I have I have not played any of the Gears of War games.
Yeah, I picked up Gears of War 4 after watching the movie Noobs. It's Noobz,
Okay.
because I'm a huge Jay and Silent Bob fan, and when I found out that Jason Mewes was in that movie, I just had to see it. And it's all about a Gears of War 3 clan that goes to the World Championships, and that got me really excited about playing that game. But Gears of War 4 had just come out, so I'm like, I'm just going to go with Gears of War 4. And so I bought it through the Microsoft Store, so I had it on my laptop and my Xbox. And then the last time, a couple weeks ago, I went to make a payment on my pre-order for the Yu-Gi-Oh game. They asked me if there was any other games I was interested in pre-ordering. And I'm like, well, is there a Gears 5 game coming out? and are you taking pre-orders for that? And they're like, well, yes, we are. And I was like, sign me up. And so I keep, every time I play one of these games, I Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Gears of War 4, I always try and find other people interested in playing to try and build a team, to build a clan, to go to tournaments, because some of those video game tournaments, they get paid big bucks for the winners.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Like my youngest boy, he's big. He's not so much into Fortnite anymore. I mean, I know there's a love hate with that, but he's been playing a lot of Apex, and he's only 9, and honestly, I want to encourage him into kind of training to actually be more of a tournament style player, because at 9 years old, he's in there kicking some serious butt on some adult players, like outwitting them, just outgunning them, and it's really cool to watch. So I wouldn't mind him definitely pursuing something like that. Uh, we we had a couple friends in the past that actually played tournaments, and one was actually, I think he's still sponsored for Call of Duty. He was an absolute monster in that game. But yeah, there can be some serious money, especially like kind of going back to Magic the Gathering with Arena. They have what, like a $500,000 cash prize, and then close to, like, they're giving out millions of dollars now compared to what they used to do.
yeah,
Blows my
I,
mind.
I looked at because I used to work for Northwest Sports Cards in Tacoma, and I had early access to a lot of those new tournament formats and everything. And then
Mhm.
doing the podcast, I really dig into what's being announced, and their schedule for Magic Arena is just ridiculous. How much they're paying for just sitting in front of a computer or sitting with your phone and playing Magic the Gathering, like $5,000 top prize for monthly tournaments, and it's just like, wow, where? How can I get into doing stuff like that?
Well, and I think with them is that they realize that with a digital format, they can really out the cheater. Like they had a rash recently where they've had like what, 4 or 5 pros get outed for stacking cards, slipping cards here and there and stuff. And so I mean, I think it's better for them in the long run in that, because if you're watching a digital game, like, that everything's being played legitimately. So that, I think that's a boon for them for sure.
Well, not. I mean, you're right in the one sense that it's easier to find cheaters, but on the other hand, it. For example, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, the mobile game,
Mhm.
uh, they recently had to drop just just last year. They had to drop like 30 some players from the World Championships because they were found to be using cheat apps to cheat the game, or they were straight up doing. It's a weird cheat because it's hard to catch, but if you because you have a timer for your turn, if you let that timer run down real low, like in the 20-30 second range, and then end your turn, you can potentially disconnect your opponent.
I gotcha.
So
I mean,
there's a lot of issues with digital games, just like with physical games. But digital games are a lot easier to find those cheaters and cut them off.
yeah, and really kind of, and be able to monitor them. Like a lot of those, what was it? I can't think of the guy's name, but he was a pro, and he got caught where just the cards that he wanted were bent cornered and stuff like that. I mean, I'll never go fully away from paper, because it's easier. I mean, it's easier to in a sense to play with your friends. Um, but Arena, you can do pickup matches and stuff, which is great. But
That's what I like about the digital games, but on the other hand, with the digital games, unless you're in a tournament circuit where you're going to an event and having to travel to an event and having to play face to face with your opponent, there you lose a social aspect
Mm-hmm.
to the game, like with the boffer games and the combat games and the LARPing groups. There's a social aspect to it that you just can't get if you're sitting there staring at a screen.
Oh, and I agree. Like, Boffin's I think in all the different groups and organizations, like, has taken a hit because of things like World of Warcraft and video games. They're so easy to access, and it doesn't require having to go somewhere. So I think sometimes those things can be detrimental for what we want to do. But I think that's also one of those things where people need to either step back and kind of look around, or for parents, like, get their kids out of the house. I know a lot of parents and friends my age that have kids. They definitely want them outside more. So.
There's a really great movie that I love that it's Knights of Bad
Oh,
Blankdom. I, I try and not use swear words on my podcast just to keep it clean because iTunes is really strict about that stuff. But that movie, while not family friendly, is just one of the greatest examples of how much fun you can actually have. Because when stuff's not going wrong in that movie, that's a really good representation of how fun LARPing can be.
oh yeah. I even look at what was it? Grown Ups with the um, just a few years ago with Paul Rudd, and where they at the end they go to the amp card style, or like LARP fighting, and just as Kiss and everything. A lot of people in the Boston community that I knew at the time, they thought that was kind of like a poke in the eye, and I honestly thought it was good for what we do, because it's like mass publicity. Like, hey, there's everyone knows that there's the kind of geeky, nerdy guys hanging out in the park, hitting each other with padded sticks, right? So, um, if you can't make fun of yourself, you're gonna let other people kind of push that on you. And I'm actually amazed Boffin's not even more popular today, with the fact that geek culture is so welcome, and there's so many people out there now that are into all the geeky aspects. Role playing games, from D&D to Rifts to GURPS and everything in between. And then you also have people who are super into comic books. Like, these are things that are now looked highly upon, where in the past it was kind of like, it wasn't. It was very much like hey, that's kid stuff, knock it off. But I kind of wonder sometimes, like, where is everybody at?
Yeah. Well, I know, like for D&D, there are a lot of uh, real play podcasts out there.
Mm.
Uh, One in particular that I like listening to that I actually found through Podcoin, which is a great podcast catcher that I use almost religiously now. It's called The Adventure Zone, and it's these three brothers who actually roped their dad into playing D&D with them. So it's a family show, and well, it's not family friendly because they curse a lot. They do a lot of really dirty jokes and everything, but it's really entertaining. And I personally have actually been looking at doing a real play D&D podcast myself. And then you got more mainstream shows like Harmon Quest
Mm.
with big name people actually playing these games. And I know a lot of the board games that I really like. I learned about from Will Wheaton's tabletop. So, you
Oh,
know,
and what's her name? Deborah Wool. Deborah Ann Wool. Is that her name? She has a D&D show now too.
yeah.
With
So D&D
like.
is becoming like super mainstream. One factor that is take a look at the what happens in the first episode of Stranger Things. They're
Mhm.
sitting around playing D&D. Every monster in each season that they are fighting against are basically ripped right out of the monster manual.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, the popular geek culture being more of a mainstream popular thing. Marvel helped with that, especially D&D with their well, Wizards of the Coast and kind of pushing all that. Magic's a huge thing. I mean, I don't. It's rare that I know someone who doesn't play either one of the TCGs in Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, or Pokemon. I mean, Pokemon's just crazy big too. But these things are so popular. I don't know, it's crazy to think about because I grew up. I was born in 1980, so I grew up, mostly 80s, 90s when these things were, early on were demonized. Like they wanted to make them out to be um, these horrible inventions to get you to worship Satan or whatnot. Kind of,
Right.
it seems silly nowadays.
Yeah, the whole devil worship thing. I mean, when I was a kid, for the longest time, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
Right, right.
So,
I mean, yeah, and I grew up with parents that were very conservative, and it's church 2-3 times a week. Um, so it's like I never got like The Simpsons was a big no no. I couldn't even imagine what my parents would have thought of Family Guy. So
oof.
yeah, right.
Yeah. And then for a long time, shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Charmed, those were all banned. I was banned from watching those.
And I could see that at a younger age, but as a teenager, I think, I mean, my parents, as conservative as they were, if action movies wasn't a big deal. You know, I
Yeah, but
think when I was 13, I watched Aliens like the entire summer. I watched it just about every day.
yeah, well, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer ban came about right around the time of Columbine.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah,
Yeah.
because it was just so graphic, and even the producers of the show pushed off the season finale where they blow up the high school
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
because of what happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was understandable definitely at the time because that was like, I mean, obviously things have happened in the past before that, shootings and stuff. But that one, wow, that really changed a lot of things. I remember, I think I was in seventh grade when that happened, and it was crazy. Like I was wearing. This is one of the silly things, coincidental things. Like I used to wear a trench coat because I saw a kid with a long coat one day, and I was like, "That looks cool." And then that happened, and wow, the perception is very very quick. People, you have to kind of change what you're doing.
Yeah, me and my friends used to joke all the time because they would hand out those handouts of the characteristics of a school shooter, and we'd sit around the lunch table, and it's like, geez, we pretty much fit all of these characteristics, except we have no desire to hurt people, or we don't have access to guns. But those characteristics were so general that you could make them fit just about anybody.
Oh yeah, and who knows what they were thinking with that? Maybe preemptive. If they just cast a broad enough net, they'll catch enough fish. But yeah, nowadays that I don't think they can even pinpoint what will cause it. Because a lot of these guys now you're seeing it's like they're not outcast necessarily. It's like a guy that's just mad that his girlfriend dumped him.
Yeah,
Like
or
stuff like that happens.
or a guy who's mad because somebody killed his character in game, and so he hunts them down and tries to hurt them. Or the whole thing with swatting. When that happened, it's like, that's really a thing. I mean, I read about it once or twice, but I'm like, this really happens? People literally call the cops on somebody just because they're mad at them because they lost a game? Like, wow.
At what point do we start kind of like looking at it? There's a lot of stuff with that. And sometimes I look around and I don't know where, kind of where things are going and what we can even do about it.
And it's this younger generation, and they don't have a constructive outlet for this. And
that social aspect is kind of being removed from them. I don't want to say being removed, because I'm not trying to say like there's like a group out there doing it, but just the natural progression of society. People, we hear about it a lot. There's anxiety. People always kind of joke with the memes about, I didn't really want to go hang out with so and so anyways. There'll be like the meme where, how do you, like one was, don't put up what you could do today when you can just cancel it. That kind of a thing, where they're just kind of ixnaying, and that's popular. It seems to be like a popular notion with people to be like, hey, I don't want to go spend time with my friends. I don't want to go out and do stuff. And it seems to be like a popular joke and personality, but it's a reality of for a lot of people, is that they don't go out and socialize enough to kind of like be part of things and be associated with people and know that people care about you. And I feel like I see that a lot more often nowadays than I have in the past.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have companies like Nintendo and even to some degree Microsoft trying to get gamers to get out, get out of the house. Pokemon Go, Nintendo coming out with a Switch that you can just take with you, Xbox and their Project X Cloud that would allow you to play Xbox games on your mobile device wherever you are, so that you could have a group of friends hanging out at a coffee shop playing some Call of Duty on their phone, right there on their phones, rather than sitting in their respective living rooms by themselves. They're actually out in the world getting some sun.
Oh yeah, and the other thing that's kind of, I saw a meme earlier today about this. It's meme culture, right? But
right.
It was this is how we gathered in the '90s, and it was like 6 or 7 kids all huddled around a TV with Mortal Kombat on there, and it's like a bunch of boys just chilling, doing the old school hangout where you had to pass the controller, everyone got their turn. If you got salty, everyone kind of poked fun at you. And you learned how to kind of you had that social aspect. So even while you're waiting your turn, you're just kind of interacting with your friends and stuff, doing other things, or watching and goading and kind of playing and having fun. So yeah,
right.
And a lot of my friends will post stuff like that, and they're like, "What happened?" Like, hey, just if I call you, just pick up.
Right. Well, we've been talking for nearly an hour now, so why don't we call it a night? And are you going to be at the event on Saturday?
I am actually going up to Freeport on Saturday to help Jarrell get things going a little bit better. I know he has some people up there, so I'll be heading up there. But I'm taking Dan with me, but we're leaving Josie, and a majority of the people are staying behind. So,
All right, well, then I guess I'll see you next week then.
Awesome. Good talk, man.
Good talking to you, and thank you for being on the show, and thank you for helping me out with the article as well.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this. We're always trying to find new outlets and stuff, and sometimes it's nice just to find something with a common interest.
Yeah. And I'll make sure, if you could shoot me some of those other links other than the KBA stuff, that'd be great. So I could put those into the show notes for my podcast so that anyone who's interested can go look at that other stuff that you mentioned.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much for being on, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was certainly an interesting interview. If you would like to know more about Kingdom Boffing Association, you can check them out on Facebook or check out their website at kingdomboffing.wixsite.com. Again, that's kingdomboffing, BOFFING, .wixsite, WIXSITE.com. That's pretty much all we have for this week's interview. On to the final thoughts. Before we get to the final thoughts, a quick word from some other podcasts you might find entertaining.
Looking into the darkness, you can feel your heart racing, the heaviness of sorrow and dread take control, and the voice inside you says, "Don't go in there." Now join your hosts Ashley Ernie and Bill Reed as we venture down the weird and mysterious.
Find the Don't Go In There podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, don't go in there.
What's up, everybody? My name's Tim from the Shut Up and Dad podcast, and I hope you're enjoying this show. If you're looking for some laughs after you finish listening to this episode, come check out Shut Up and Dad. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and your favorite podcast platform by searching Shut Up and Dad, or simply head to our website, shutupanddad-podcast.com, where you can listen to episodes, read our blog, and find links to our show. That's shutupanddad-podcast.com.
Yet another episode in the can. Well, in this episode, we took a look at the changes to the semi-limited and unlimited list for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. We talked about the new Pokemon mobile game, got some great news for people experiencing Joy-Con drift, and heard from one of the leaders of Kingdom Boffing Association in Auburn, Washington. If you have any comments or questions on any of these stories, or if you have an idea for a future episode, there are several ways you can contact the show. You can email me at hazardousverbal@gmail.com, use the contact form on the contact page at hazardousverbal.com, through our many social media accounts, or through Skype. Skype ID is Ichimoto1. I would also like to introduce a new way that you can support the show and get any personal or business message read on the show. Simply go to the Support the Show page on the show website and click on the Donate button. That'll take you to the PayPal page where you can make a donation. Any size donation is appreciated, as without them, this show becomes very difficult to produce. But if you want to have a personal or business message read on a future episode for the low price of $2.50 per 140 characters, I will read your message during a future episode. That's pretty much all we have for this week. Until next week, this is Shiro-chan signing off. Peace.